Hello, my name is Nicholas Hinojosa. I'm going to be the instructor for this course. And what I wanted to do today was just give you a brief demo on how to use Visual Studio to do your assignments for the class and how to create projects. And in this class, of course, we're going to be learning the C# programming language. So let's go ahead and get started. First thing, make sure you have Visual Studio Professional 2012 installed. That's the version we're going to be using for this class. All right, so once you get that installed, if you don't have a copy of it or you need access to it, then you would need to talk to one of the lab assistants, and they can get you access to DreamSpark, and then you can download it for free as long as you're a student with the college. Okay, so let's assume you already have it set up, maybe from another course. All right, so you go to Start, type Visual Studio. And it's going to be 2012. All right, I also had 2010, but for this class we'll use the 2012 version. So just click on it. If you get any weird error messages, like here for compatibility issues, just hit Run Program. And then if you have different choices on how to set up the ID, so since we're going to be doing C# programming in this course, we want to set up the environment in Visual Studio to support C#. And I'm going to remove the help documentation for now. You can leave it if you want to, right? I'll leave it like that for now. Okay, and then let's go ahead and start, and then run again. And then you're going to see this the first time you run Visual Studio, but after you run it, this message will go away. And what I'll probably do at this point is cut the video so that way we'll get started once it's installed. Okay, so this is going to be what you see on the screen. The start page, we don't need that. We can just close it out. A lot of the stuff we're going to be working on will be in the Solution Explorer. Right, so let me show you how to set up a project for C#, and pretty much all the assignments we're going to do in this class, we're going to set them up exactly the same way. Okay, so the first thing you're going to want to do is go to File, New, then you're going to go to Project, and then here under the Visual C# tab, or section here, click on Windows, and then scroll down to what you see where it says Empty Project. That's one we're going to be using. All right, so let's you can change this to depending on what you're working on. Since this is an introduction, I'm going to call it Intro for the project name, and then it'll be saved in the projects folder here. So we'll go through an application, we'll go to write it out, we'll go ahead and run it, and then I'll show you how to submit your assignments in Blackboard. Okay, so then once you have that set up, just hit OK. And then now you see in the Solution Explorer, we have some files here, right? But we don't have anywhere to write code, right? We need a code file. We need a .cs file, for CS stands for C#, right? So we can add a code file. So just right click, here where it says Intro on the project name, then go to Add, and then New Item, and then you'll get a choice of different things you can add to your project. What we're going to want is the code file, right? So we go to code file here, and then this we're going to want to change it depending on the name of our project. That's what we're going to want to call this here, because everything we do in C# is going to be in classes. We're going to learn more about object-oriented programming in Chapter 4. For now, we'll just go ahead and name it the same as the project. So then we'll call this intro.cs, and then add. Okay, so now this is going to be our code file. This is where we're going to start typing. But before we actually start adding code, we can make a few adjustments to the environment, the programming environment. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is we want to add number lines to our code, so it's easier to work with if each line is numbered. Right, so we can go to Tools, then go to Options, then go under Text Editor, under C#, and then under General, and then here we can add line numbers, right? So that way we know what line we're on. The other thing I'm going to do here, you don't have to do this, but I find that the font is a little too small for me, so I increase the size on it. So to do that, just go back to Environment, go to Fonts and Colors, and then here you can change all the different the font styles and the size. Right. So I want, let's say, to me it's a little easier to work with Arial, and then I'm going to change the font size to maybe 16, or maybe a little bit bigger, maybe 20. And if that's too big, then you can always reduce it in size as well. Okay, so now that should be a little bit bigger. Okay, so once we have our environment set up with number lines and the font the way we want, the size and everything, now we're ready to create our first app. All right, so pretty much what we're going to do here is going to be the structure of most of the programs or projects that you submit as your assignments, as your practice, right? So I'm going to show you the basic format of the applications you're going to make. So the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to type this. You're going to type using system, right? And what this means is that we're going to be using a class library called system that's going to give us access to pre-built classes that are already developed for us. That way we don't have to develop them. The functionality that we're going to get from the system library is going to be accepting or displaying output to the screen, and also accepting input from a user. That's one of the main reasons we use system. And then every time you type a statement in C#, you must end it with a semicolon. You have to terminate it, similar to writing a sentence in English. When you finish a sentence, you put a period on it. In C#, you put a semicolon. Okay, so once you have that, the next thing you need to do is every application you build in C# is object-oriented. So that means that you have to develop a class. We're going to talk more about classes in Chapter 4, but just for now, keep in mind that every program you do will contain at least one class, right? So then type public, then class, and then the name of the class is going to be the same as our file name, right? So then that's intro, just like that. And then we need to all the statements we're going to do in this application will be in the public class intro, right? So then press enter, and then we're going to need a left brace, and we also need a right brace. So press enter again, and then type the right brace in there. Right? Every time you type a brace, it's a good idea because they come in pairs, right? So it's usually best to type the pair out right away, as opposed to writing the code out and then at the end try to put the braces, because sometimes you might lose track of them, especially if we have a lot of functions and a lot of different things going on within these braces here. Then it's easy to lose track of them, right? So then all our code is going to go between these two braces here, between the left brace and the right brace, right? And then you can tab over, and then now every application you create in C# will have a main function. We'll have one main function. So since this program is going to be very simple, we're just going to create an application that displays some output to the screen. So we'll go ahead and create the main function, and let me show you how to do that. Okay, so then that's going to be public static void, and then uppercase. Usually the classes that you create and the functions you create, the letters are for their names, respective names, are usually capitalized. So main, and then this function takes an argument. That argument is going to be, well, you type the left parentheses, then you type string, then the name of the argument, in this case usually it's called args, and then you close the parentheses, right? So every time you select something that has a pair, if you highlight it, it'll highlight its matching partner. But here we have the squiggly line, it's indicating there's an error. Well, because we need a left and right brace also for the function, right? Just like the way we have one for the class. So let's go ahead and do that. Just press enter here, and then do the left brace and then the right brace, and then our code that we're actually going to execute will be inside the main function, right? So the program can't run, or your application can't run without a main, right? So this pretty much everything that's here, you're going to type it every single time you generate a program, or you create an assignment, or whatever it is you're doing in C#. Right, so let's say I want to do some output to the screen. Then we already have the system directive, so now we can call the console class. So then you do console dot write, and then there's two options here. And then as you're typing the code, you're going to get what's called Intellisense. Intellisense usually tells you, if you're typing something, it gives you a hint, right? And you can just start typing part of it, and then of course you can double click on it and it'll fill out the rest. I recommend just typing it out. That way you get enough practice, and that way you know exactly what you're writing, as opposed to relying on Intellisense to do everything for you. Right, so Rightline, and this Rightline is also a function, just like the main. So Rightline takes an argument, and actually there's different versions of Rightline. There's actually 19 different versions. We're going to use the first one for now. Right, so Rightline, and then the argument is going to be whatever you want to display to the screen. So I can do something like welcome to CITP 3310. And then this here is called a string, right? And the strings come in double quotes, right? So you start the double quote, type out your string. When you're finished typing your string, then you put the other double quote, right? But then we need a matching parentheses. This is the left parentheses. We need the right parentheses. And then once you're done with your statement, your statements need to be terminated. Right? So you put a semicolon. Right here we're defining a function. So that's why there's no semicolon here. But here this is an actual statement of a line of code. Right? So within all of this, console is referring to the command prompt. So when we run this program, what's going to happen is the command prompt is going to pop up, and it's going to display the text "Welcome to CITP 3310." Right? So to run the program, and so we can actually see it working, we can click here under Start, or actually I prefer if we do it using Control F5 simultaneously. Right, so now you see the command prompt pops up and we see welcome to CITP 3310. So the program is working. So then hit OK. There's a lot of jargon and a lot of things going on here in this code that we may not be familiar with yet. But as we go through the course, a lot of this will start making more sense. But pretty much the best way to understand it is just to start working with it, and then eventually it just starts making sense, right? So maybe at first it might seem a little cryptic, but just keep working at it and it'll make a lot more sense further down the semester. Right, so we had just pressed start here. See, what happens is it popped up, but then it disappeared right away. We don't want that. Yeah, so if you don't want to do Control F5, the shortcut, the other way you can run this is by going to Debug, and then if you do just start debug, then the same thing will happen what just happened earlier. So I like to do start without debugging, right? So that's Control F5. Right, so then now we can actually see the output to the screen. Also, if this is a little too small for you, you can actually just right click on the console window and then go to properties, and then you can change the parameters. If you change the font size or the type of font from rastered fonts to consoles, then you can actually change different font sizes. Then hit OK. You see, and then that might be a little bit easier to see, a little bit easier on the eyes. And then also the other thing you can do is we can go to colors, and you can go screen background, and you can choose white, and then for the screen text we can choose black, right? So then now it's white, or it's black text on white instead. That might be a little bit easier for you to read. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to show you was how to actually submit your assignments into Blackboard. Right, so once you're satisfied, you can just close this out, go to File, Save All. That way we save our code file and anything else that we created here. Then we close this out, and then if we go to our Documents folder, there should be a folder called Visual Studio. Right, and then you'll have different folders in here. Where you create your project will be in the project folder, and we created the project name when we first started. We called it Intro. Right, so if you look here, all the different files that are needed, that are created automatically for you, and here's the intro.cs file. This is the one we actually typed in. Right, so what you're going to want to do again is go to projects, and then this folder here, you're going to want to send this, right click, send to compressed zip folder. Here I have WinRAR zip utility. You might have just the standard Windows zip folder application. Right, so either one you can use, it's fine, as long as it's a zip folder. Okay, so here's the Blackboard for our class. Right, so what you're going to want to do is go to Practice Labs, and I set up an assignment here just for this video. So just go under Introduction to CITP 3310 Practice, click here, browse my computer, and then go to make sure you're in your Documents folder, Visual Studio 2010, projects, and then go to intro, and then that should be in zip format, and then just submit. And then from here, what I'll go ahead and do is I'll download the zip folder and compile it and make sure it runs, and that way you get a grade for it.